This segment of the news is brought to you by Smitty's Cards and Coins. Would you like to know what your collectibles are worth? Come by 2281 Postal Road, Unit 4, across from the post office.
If you're in a bad situation, No to Abuse is here to help. We caught up with Salli Kerr to find out more.
You know, what we want to see are those families calling for help as soon as that situation starts. That isn't what we see. So we see that victims typically are in a cycle of violence and don't know how to break that. If they don't reach out, it will just continue. We want people around those victims to be really supportive about calling, to continue to put the number in front of them, to continue to get permission to bring them. We know that it's not as effective to just say, oh, call No to Abuse, as to say, can I have permission to put you in my car and take you over to the ladies at No to Abuse to help you with this?
And like you were talking about the group sessions, maybe you can, join other people, find out their stories. We're not saying that you have to leave right now, but you might want to reach out and talk to people in the situation who might be able to help you transition.
Right, and we are not in a position to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do. That's not our job as an advocate, but what we want to show them are what options they have, and we want to show them even how to safety plan in their own home. So if they really feel like I can't leave right now for whatever barrier they think, we can help them to safety plan so that in their home they still have a method of keeping themselves safe.
And do you typically see drugs and alcohol go hand in hand with domestic violence, or is that something rare?
No, I don't think it's just related to only domestic violence. I think that we see that across the board in a lot of crimes, that drug addiction or alcoholism are also a part of that cycle.
For more information, they can give No to Abuse a call.
Yes, No to Abuse, 751-1118.
Goldman Sachs is back in the news. Angela Miles reports in today's Business First Brief.
Tapping our news, Goldman Sachs sags and drags. The Wall Street firm turned in earnings and revenue that beat expectations, but its bond and commodity trading business plunged 40%, causing concern among investors as that stock weighed heavily on the Dow. Overall, Goldman's revenue was $7.8 billion. Bank of America's cost-cutting and consumer lending led to a $22.9 billion revenue in the second quarter. Bank of America is now beating out Goldman with a trading revenue of $3.4 billion compared to Goldman's $3.1 billion. Harley-Davidson shares hit the skids yesterday. The motorcycle maker posted a 17% drop in revenue from general merchandise. Expectations on bike sales for the year have been lowered at Harley by up to 8%. The company's revenue came in around $1.5 billion. United Airlines flew in the right direction, topping estimates on earnings and revenue.
Thanks, Angela. Our own Rhonda Van Winkle has a passion for horses. In fact, she has raised horses for many years. She brought an item to the Board of County Commissioners that would require horse owners to provide shade for their animals in the Pahrump Valley. The item has not been decided on.
I was going to present an item for the agenda. Actually present it to the commissioners. What I didn't realize is that they weren't allowing me to present. I was only allowed 3 minutes, so I didn't really get to talk about some of the research we have done on this subject, which is having shelter for horses in our county. I know this is a sensitive subject. I know it's been brought up in the past, and I respect that very much. I want to make it clear that I'm definitely not speaking of livestock that are in large pastures or roaming free in large ranges or anything like that. I'm really speaking of the domestic animal that are in corrals and smaller, that have smaller confinement. With a little bit of research, we have some information from UC Davis, which says the legal requirements: horses must be provided with necessary shelter for protection from weather, and that's in the California Penal Code. Just showing that there are laws in other places that may have similar weather to us for these animals. And then Purdue University of Animal Sciences says that shelter in one form of a structure should be available for horses in cases of prolonged extreme weather conditions, which obviously in Nevada, in this area, our heat is a prolonged extreme condition compared to other areas. So I did get an email from Dr. Hensler, who was an equine vet here in the Valley. He is retired now, but he spent many, many years here in the Valley. So he has a vast amount of experience. He believes that horses and all the other livestock should have shelter. Dr. Hadlin, who we heard from, was against making it law, but morally felt it was the right thing to do.
The fact is that they thermoregulate very well, so they actually do not need shade as long as they're otherwise healthy and have adequate water. It's a good idea to have it accessible to them morally.
I am a horse person, and so I spent 20 years raising and showing horses, and I was an international championship horse rider, and I keep seeing horses in the Valley that are in small pens, and they are stuck in the heat and in the winter. Their coats are getting completely saturated. The wind blows, they're shivering, they're thin. And they could be thin because they're not eating enough, or they could be thin because of weather conditions. I don't know, but they're suffering, and I can tell that they're suffering. When out in a pasture, if there's a group of horses, often they'll go nose to nose. They'll help shade each other, or they'll even take turns laying in each other's shade. If it's real windy, they'll put their rear end to the wind, but they'll huddle. So they have ways of protecting themselves if they can't find shelter. One of the arguments was you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And they were saying that in comparison to shelter. Well, we can build a shelter, but the horses stand out in the sun because of flies. Well, if you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, then why are we forced to make sure they have water? Because they need it. So a horse should have, a choice to get out of the elements.
And if you want to get involved in that, you can email Rhonda at rondavw@gmail.com. That's RONDAVW@gmail.com. Well, the Board of County Commissioners discussed the licensing of a marijuana facility at their meeting yesterday.
Special use permit to allow cultivation of retail recreational marijuana in addition to medical marijuana. And B, discussion deliberation regarding special use permit or request for production, retail of retail and medical, or just retail, it says. So Darrell, frame this, and then I'll make a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the medical marijuana facility on Mesquite, NCMM. You had given me the approval to grant recreational licenses for the people that were in operation in good standing. We did visits and audits of all the facilities prior to that point. NCMM, we found several violations. They have been corrected to the best of our knowledge, but my administrative ability to grant that recreational permit has expired, so this has to come to you for approval.
Okay, this is the one on Mesquite. I know the problems we've had with it. I gave the owner a call a couple of months ago when there was a problem. I didn't get a call back, trying to give him a heads up. This was originally approved for medical. They haven't grown one plant yet. I would like to see them grow some medical and then come back and ask us for retail. That's my opinion, but I will give it to the board.
The motion is to approve SU 2017-000037 and 38, the condition that they come back in 30 days.
90.
90 days.
90 days. They violate no rules now or ever.
There you go. And that's your second?
That was my second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Against?
Aye.
Aye. 4-1. All right. Okay.
Well, a doctor makes an interesting discovery. We'll tell you about it after this break.